aspect of this sector is very much important, that any kind of material or manufacturing process that we are going to use in the kitchenware, that is actually, we are vulnerable to that when we are using that at our home, we are taking food, and on a daily basis we are going to interact with that. If there is something wrong, that would definitely harm our health, that can cause multiple diseases. Concentration of this particular sector is Gujranwala and Wazirabad, and around 2,000 SMEs units are working in this sector, and direct jobs are 20,000 plus. We can see from here, in terms of export and import, that the overall number with some fluctuations, this is around 23, 24 millions of US dollars continuously from 2014 and 13, with there was a downside in 18 and 19, and then there was an upper side in 21 and 22. However, the imports are negligible, they're not very major. Export trends, Middle East is a customer for Pakistan, this sector, UK, Europe, USA and Afghanistan, and global ranking of this sector, 26 in country and 22nd in aluminium in terms of the revenue generation. And then the manufacturing clusters that I have already mentioned, the situation, they are situated in Gujranwala and Wazirabad, and some challenges have been highlighted here. Details are, we can find some other on the other presentation. Kitchenware manufacturing consists of stoves and gas stoves. They are actually producing the methane and the other nitrogen oxide. And then the biomass stoves, they also release some sort of GHG emissions. And the aluminium utensils are the major bit in this particular sector. This is quite energy intensive. However, the aluminium can be recycled. 2% of global GHG emissions, and the most important thing, that the aluminium manufacturing sector has been introduced in the carbon border adjustment mechanism. If we don't cater the challenges about the CSRD and ESG compliance requirements, then definitely the requirements will be imposed on this particular sector. So there are three major types of utensils being manufactured in the Pakistani sector: pressed aluminium utensils, and die-cast aluminium utensils, and coated aluminium utensils. So we can see from here that in our visits and interactions with industry, we came to know that there are multiple challenges. For example, in the pressed aluminium utensils, these are related with the health risks are associated with this one. Direct aluminium utensils, they are durable, but still health risks are there, but those are lesser than the pressed aluminium. And the last one is a coated one. That is, coating is done. However, that also have some sort of toxic fumes built in the part of that process, and which is injurious to health. And the anodized aluminium utensils, these are the most durable, widely accepted, but they are very much costly in terms of global competitiveness. When we talk about the Green Industrialization Framework implementation for this particular sector, so we have selected 5 pillars, and based on which we try to map the sector that where we are standing right now. What is the current state of the business? For example, better production processes, these numbers are out of 10. 2.5 marks the sector gained. Low GHG emissions, lower number, low pollution, and then high lean efficiency and fair commercial practices. So the GHG emissions means that low means that they have the higher emissions. Pollution impact is there. Lean efficiency is very much compromised, that is getting a very lesser number in this one. and commercial practices are also very compromised. Key challenges and their impact. One very important aspect during the case studies that we developed, that the productivity and lead time is one of the very important challenge that is persisting in this challenge, in this particular sector. For example, orders take 1 day in China, whereas in Pakistan, the lead time is 12 days. So we can understand the lead time is directly related to the lean efficiency of the production system. That how quickly you can produce the things. If these processes are not automated and you have not latest technologies in the system, then that was one problem. The other one is the quality control issue. Quality assurance system leads to lower prices in the global market because the international stringent requirements on the quality processes, if we are not certified in that and the companies are not equipped with those tools and techniques, and when you are going to send that product into the market, you will not be able to get higher value in terms of the cost, the customer that can pay. The raw materials, 90 to 90% of aluminium is imported as scrap, so risking the contamination with harmful metals and arsenic and lead. This is something we are actually producing this aluminium from the scrap, and during that process, and there are some built-in health and safety risks associated with this particular thing. For example, when we talk about the stoves, this is one of the area in this particular sector. The poor quality stoves waste 30 to 40% billion cubic feet of gas annually, costing around $300 million and emitting 2% of methane. So gas stoves increase asthma risk by 42% in children. So this is something, the social aspect, when we talk about the ESG compliance, which is the necessary part of the green industrialization. So we can see from here the risk for the health related associated risks are very much dominant. In recommendations, we need to improve PSQCA implementation framework strategy so that on ground we can monitor the quality as well as the health and safety and governance and the related issues, and we can implement that proactively and promote the energy efficient multi-fuel stoves through incentives and carbon credit schemes. So energy efficiency we need to improve for this particular thing. The other one very important is the aluminium utensils. Challenges, the recycling rate is only 30%, leading to environmental contamination. So aluminium can be recycled. However, our state of the affair is at the 30%. We need to improve this one. Melting processes in natural gas furnaces result in high GHG emissions and worker injuries. So we need to improve this melting process. Recommendations have been added. I'll be sharing later. Use of non-tableware grades PTFE. So we can see from this diagram. So there are multiple health-related issues associated if we are not good in our practices. There is, for example, there is some developmental issues. Kidney and liver problems could be there, cancer risk is there, and there are multiple issues have been highlighted in the report that has been presented there. Very importantly, the recommendations are to increase the recycled aluminium use and shift to the electric furnaces. Electric furnaces will enhance the energy efficiency consumption and the better control of the temperature. When we melt the recycle, for the recycling, we need a control over the temperature in the furnace. And when we are doing that manually, so there is a possibility for errors. So we need to electrify that one so that we can get the better control and better energy efficiency in that one. Phase out non-tableware grade PTFE coatings and incentivize safer alternatives like ceramic coatings. So, I understand that the PCSIR has a very good mechanism for state-of-the-art laboratories for coating. They can help in this one to reimagine this particular issue and do some R&D and commercialize that in collaboration with the industry. Adopt air purifying techniques to reduce the ambient pollution. When we are going to those, recycling of that aluminium, the furnaces and their air that is we are sending into the polluted air, so we need to develop some mechanism to control those, purify that air and then send to the environment. So for the purpose of greening this sector, we can see from here the multiple issues have been highlighted. The whole process map is basically starting from raw material, rolling, shearing and blanking, deep drying, metal spinning, surface finishing, wishing, washing and cleaning, and then fastening and packaging. So the issue in the first one, red one, is the ingot and scrap metals are melted in cubicles to form pellets, and the solution to this one is to introduce efficient melting furnaces implementing the real-time temperature monitoring and control. So that would reduce the energy consumption as well as the process efficiency. So GHG as well as the cost, both will be managed through this one. The cost for this intervention for one unit would be 12.5 million. So actually we have developed the roadmap for especially the SMEs so that the government can provide the support to the sector for developing some interventions. So 12.5 million will introduce this technique and it will increase both the process efficiency as well as reduce the GHG emissions. Next one is the rolling. The manual labor is one of the major issue in this one. Outdated machines, high energy consumption and maintenance requirements. So the solution, introduce semi-automatic and fully automatic rolling mills, upgrade machines for energy efficiency and optimize rolling schedules. I would like to mention that in one rolling mill steel manufacturing company, we in collaboration with the UEG Lahore, we developed their automated rolling mechanism for the steel manufacturing. So we can collaborate with the industry to revive this and develop some interventions. 25 million is the cost. Next one is the manual shearing and blanking, and the separate steps resulting 40% metal wastage. Metal wastage is one of the major issue and manual working. So the automation and integrated shearing and blanking, both processes can be integrated by designing new interventions and improve the recycling process and automation. So the cost would be only 15 million. Deep drying and metal spinning, this process as the hydraulic presses and manual spindle lathes used, leading to high material wastage and labor dependency. So you can see from here, from all these problems, the industrial automation, lack of the automation is a major challenge. And the other one is the control over the processes. So there are two major things that were getting highlighted in all these processes. Upgrade the modern hydraulic presses, use single draw and cut technology to explore the die cutting for the track. So combining the process will definitely decrease the energy consumption, reduce the labor, reduce the lead time, as well as process efficiency will be improved. So in this one intervention, it would serve the four purposes for this intervention. So the only cost is 10 million, that if 10 million is invested, that this process will be up to the mark. So the surface finishing is a manual sanding process that is being done by the workers manually, and the skilled labor is required for this one, extremely skilled labor. And the inefficient anodizing tanks and energy intensive conveyors and ovens, this is the problem. So deploy the automatic sanding machines, install automatic anodizing tanks, upgrade energy efficient conveyors and ovens. So the 6 million is the only expected cost. Then washing and cleaning, manual doing of work is the major issue in this one. There is no automation in this sector. Automation can help us to reduce the water consumption as well as improve the process efficiency. Only cost is the 6 million. Last but not the least is the last process is the fastening and packaging. So manual riveting and screwing and spot welding for handling attachments with no automation. This is the current practice in the sector, and we need to introduce the automatic feeding mechanisms for rivets and screws. The cost is 1.9 5 million. So this is something that we can see from here. There is only one process, that is the rolling, because that is needed much money, not too much, that is 25 million. Otherwise, there are many small scale interventions that can be provided to the technology indigenization in the sector, and with a very lesser amount of an investment, we can revive this sector and make this green and lean. So, in conclusion, we can see from here that we have developed some diagram that, for example, technology advancement is one challenge, and the other one is the environmental impact of this one, economic factors in terms of cost and labor, and the occupational safety and health, and its social impact is the issue. However, we have also developed a framework that if we want to focus particularly to solve one challenge, that what are the possible options that we have against the whole life cycle of this production process. We have covered the whole life cycle of this processes, and then the issues, and then what are the possible interventions, their possible costs, and so that we can revive this sector with the green practices, and so that they can contribute for the green socio-economic development of the country. Thank you so very much for listening.
Expensive. So what about that? That's one. The second question is that is most of this machinery locally made or locally available? That's number two. The third question is that what are the conditions which encourage us that the industry would take it up? So is it highly possible that the industry by consensus says no, we don't want any such intervention which brings in regulatory agencies and all that, and they would like to work under the radar? But very quickly.
Yes, Dr. From starting from the point one, as you said, that the cost production of the product will increase as per these interventions. But as per the policies shared by Dr. Amjad, these will rise as much as 30% of the production efficiency and productivity, thereby leading towards more safer and cleaner and lean production, and thereby reducing the cost. As of the study in China about the production of the cookware processes in 2022, I would rather share that with you. The production processes with these automated processes has increased up to 40% as per the previous labor processes. So about the machinery, it's not locally available. Reason being, as per the acceptability from the market, it's not currently practiced here anywhere. But with the government interventions, lesser import duties, we can regularize this and possibly allow the interventions of automation in this sector. So considering the most important point number 3 in regarding the acceptability of the policies and terms, I would rather add some more few points regarding the interventions shared by Dr. Amjad. Is first of all, for these interventions, the industry needs support of the policymakers as well as the support of the laborers is already doing such practices. So the first point I would like to add is if government is allowing us to shift towards the electric mode of furnaces, it will be add much more cost towards as compared to the previous mechanism. But I would recommend that currently practices an open furnace melting process. We can shift as in regular and fast assembly towards closed space furnaces, which will greatly decrease the GHG emissions. Second point which I have already raised with the officials of Environmental Protection Agency here is the providing approved fuel from the government. As of the current scenarios and situations in Pakistan, government has clearly and cut off that we are not able to provide you the gas for the furnaces, and you have to self-arrange all of these for your melting purposes. And in that case, industry have to melt the process, have to process the raw material for creation of these products, and for that the industry might be using some of the banned products or materials for this. Second is the purification process. For the purification, I recommend if the single unit is not preferred, as every a unit must attach an air control unit. You can add a system such as the cluster-based air purifying unit, such as it has been installed, as ma'am has already said, in Gulberg, I think so, the pollution control tower. You can separately create the special metal processing zones in state or farther away from the populated areas, and install a cluster-based air purifying units there, so it could greatly decrease the emissions from this sector. Fourth point which Dr. Saab has discussed is the non-stick, the use of non-stick which is not tableware grade. As per the current polytetrafluoroethylene, there are two readily available grades. One is non-tableware grades, might be used in irons, etc. at the lower side, and second is tableware grade. So the currently the PQ CSA lacks the ability to test this coatings, and we have to go to possibly Dubai to STS standards, to China to test these grades for tableware or non-tableware. So it is recommended to provide the testing of these coatings available, so that it could not harm any health or cause any health issues, and provide the safer practices for industry as well as the local consumers available here. So it's recommended to prosper the tableware only grade of PTFE and do not allow non-tableware grade at any cost. Thirdly, as per the cluster-based air purifying system or emission control system is concerned, I would recommend that if, as government has successfully incentivized the zigzag system in brick kiln manufacturing, so if government would separate these metal processing units and incentivize them same as they have provided zigzag system for big kiln manufacturers, it can be readily accepted and will be practiced at every level, as that it is already incentivized by the government. At the last, I would like to recommend that as the Dr. has recommended some of the automation processes, there are some processes which we have to do separately. For example, if we start from the raw material processing, we have to separately roll this, separately cut off this, and separately punch all of these in three different processes. But the world is far above what we are practicing here. There are currently some of the machines that in a single punch can cut off the blank, can really draw it and also punch it in a single stroke. So we can, the main concept behind this is the lack of education or the technical assistance towards the industry. I would recommend the EDB board to provide the assistance or support in such system that would allow the industry to accept this technology and practice it in the larger effect or larger benefit of the mankind. Thank you very much.
Excellent. EDP must have taken note. We don't have time to counter comment, but I think after the session you can have a discussion with Mr. Farhan. But is it clear what he's saying?
Yes, it's pretty clear. Just a short note. As you're talking about that machinery is required to be imported from China, so let me assure you that under the first schedule and under the fifth schedule, the machinery, that sort of machinery which is not being manufactured here is already exempted. So, industry can always import them. Secondly, I would like to comment one thing that as we were discussing the energy policy, energy vehicle policy, so for every aspect of that policy ecosystem, say like a charging station, we have also made a financial analysis for the investors to calculate the payback period, which is around 3.5 to 4 years for that. So for this investment, I would also request you to make an analysis, economic analysis to calculate the payback period, because when you talk with the investor, their only concern is, okay, we are ready to invest that, but how much time we can get our money back and enter into the profit regime. Also do that factor as well.
Well, we didn't present it here, but Farhan precisely has made us a plan for immediate intervention, short-term intervention, and medium-term intervention going up to 3 years. And though it has been noted that the mission apparently seems an expensive enterprise, 75 billion, but if you strategize your interventions the way he has explained, then one can come up with a 3-year plan for the aluminium sector to make a major transformation. So I expect that EDP would then.
First, I would like to add some short point regarding EDP. That you have mentioned there is no import duty on the import of such machinery. But I would like to mention that the machines specifically like rolling automated machines cannot be imported directly as a single wholesome machine. We have to import the parts separately and have to assemble here. So by assembling here we have to separately import that, separate each of the part of that machine, and it directly or indirectly allows to impose duty on these parts. Thank you.
Noted, and we can take care of it.
This is a popular complaint that many times you tax the intermediate products, not the final product. So that's an interesting part. But thank you very much, both of you, Dr. Farhan. Be quick.
Yes, I would like to ask that is it possible to recycle the water that is being used in the washing stage just to minimize the use of water and also the overall cost?
I would like to add that it's already being done in the sectors, that the water we use in washing of these utensils is reutilized in the cooling process of making of billets. When we manufacture, when we process the scrap, we have to form the billets of these. And the billets are formed of the metal, heavy metal blocks. And we have to cool down that block. And for cooling down, we use that recycled water already, and it directly turns into fumes as it's very hot. So it's already been recycled and it's taken care of. Thank you.
Today we will look at our different sectors in the polymer industry and how we can have the better interventions with the small funding in different sectors. If you see, this is a spider diagram for different type of the techniques which we normally use in the polymer industry. We have the extrusion-based techniques, we have the injection-based techniques, then we have the blow molding techniques, rotational molding techniques, blown film techniques, and thermoforming techniques. These are the majorly used techniques in the polymer industry. And if we want the small interventions in each different separate type of the industry, so we can say that for example in the extrusion, the recycling integration we can incorporate quite easily with the cost efficiency and with the energy optimization. So overall, this sector, if I say from 5 to 7 million, it can transform its normal structure to the greener structure, and the green, not only green, but it will be also lean manufacturing. Similarly, injection molding setup would require 4 to 6 million, and blow molding would require from somewhere 3 to 5 million, and thermoforming would require from 1 to 3 million. It depends. There are different costs based on the complexity of the techniques and the requirement of the molds and different other things in these sectors. But when we look at the overall the greener and leaner policy which we are working on it, and we have devised the 5 different pillars for this green and lean manufacturing industry. So when we come on those pillars, as I mentioned yesterday, that we are lying somewhere from around 1.5 to 2 index as compared to the 5 index in our sector, and we need some sort of intervention based on the immediate interventions, and we need some short-term intervention. Immediate intervention would be from less than 1 year, requires a less than 1 year time, and a short-term intervention would be from 1 year to 3 years, and the medium-term intervention from the 3 to 5 years. Definitely, whenever you switch from one structure to other structure, it needs time. If you convert yourself haphazardly, you will not have a sustainable solution. So that's why I emphasize that these immediate and the short term and the medium term, they should be spanned over the time range. Then if we take one by one different pillars, and if we want to improve the indexing of a pillar, how much money we require in each different sector. Firstly, I mentioned the amount which we require by the technique wise. Now I'm talking about the amount which we require to improve that overall pillar and to improve the index from somewhere 1.5 to somewhere 4 or so. So if we want to improve the index from 1.5 to 2 with a very small or the immediate intervention, then we approximately require the 10 million, and this 10 million would be for the particularly for the training of the different personas working in those industries, and making the awareness campaign for the polymer sector, because you know at the moment everybody is saying say no to plastic and no to plastic. I think say no to plastic is not a very good slogan. The better slogan is the say no to plastic with the no K and no. If you know your plastic better, if you know the properties of your plastic better, then you can easily transform your structures. And the training required for the better production would be related to the manufacturing, shortening the cycle time, and how they can reduce their waste during their processing. So everything that should be included in this training. And this training amount would be based on the, if we select approximately 3 to 5 different industries in the different sectors in the Pakistan, for example, one in Lahore, one in Karachi, one in Gujranwala, etc. So if we transform them and we pick up the online session and we do the online session and we do the physical trainings, then we can do it in somewhere around 10 billion. And if we want to further increase the index from the 2 to 3, then we have to move towards our short-term plans, from 1 to 3 years plans. And in 1 to 3 years plan, the industry have to work on their R&Ds, and they have to redesign their molds, and they have to have more automation in their sector. So approximately we require the 30 million for improving this particular pillar. And if we move further to increase the bar to 4 index, and then the funding will increase, that is up to 50 million. So, and in this sector, this would be based on the, particularly the R&Ds for the better production, and the methodologies we have for better production, and to transform the industry from a normal manual process to the automated process. And by the way, I'm very much convinced with the Ali, which Ali Salman made a comment early in the morning, that you have to incentivize in a certain manner. And I don't know how we can incentivize the industry or the plastic sector, but I think the different intervention from the policymakers or from the government side or from the certain donors would require for transformation of this industry, because at the moment the plastic industry is a big stigma all over the world. And then for the low GHG emissions, again for different short term and the long term and the medium term, we have the different amount of the funding required. For short term we have the 8 million, and for medium term 25 million. For the further indexing, to increase the further indexing, we need the 45 million. And this requires the energy audits and how you can transform your normal conventional motors to the DC based, induction based motors, and many more things. Then for the low pollution, to reduce the wastage of the industry, to have the proper extended producer responsibility to recollect your products and to bring back your products to the recycling stream. We need the intervention, and the amount of intervention would be from 7 to approximately 40 million based on the short term, immediate, and the medium term plans. And for the lean manufacturing efficiency, increasing the lean manufacturing efficiency, the intervention requires approximately from 6 million to the 38 million, and which have the more chances of imparting the knowledge of the 5S or Kaizen based technologies or the processes to the industry, and then of material optimization, what sort of material you have to use it, and how those materials can reduce your cycle time, and what would be the processing conditions for your techniques. And for the when you go for the high end, then you need to establish the specialized clusters. You need to make a specialized clusters for your industry, where you can showcase the industry that this is a this is our state-of-the-art lean manufacturing setup, and if you replicate your industry based on this state-of-the-art lean manufacturing setup, then you can transform your industry from the normal to the lean manufacturing. And then the various commercial practices, and in plastic they are very common. Most of the sectors are informal or the micro enterprises involved. Then the collection is one of the bigger challenge, and the use of the child labor in this particular sector, that's one of the biggest problem. Then the transformation of the your product to your waste recycling stream, and then having a proper recycling structure of your polymer products, that requires a huge amount of money, and that requires a huge you can say the involvement of the different stakeholders. So if you see, this is a bit on the high side in terms of the amount. We require from 15 to 60 million if we want to transform this sector. And it would be very difficult. It's not easy to transform this sector and to address this particular pillar of our green and lean manufacturing setup. And to summarize some of all these things, the major thing is the short-term plan is about having the knowledge of the plastic, having the knowledge of the better techniques, and transforming our normal process to the green process. We need to impart the knowledge, and we require a lesser amount of money. Then shifting towards the higher, the intermediate level, you have to change the slide processes, change the mold, and change the equipment which we require, the intermediate equipment which we require for the production, and at the last you need to transform, taking your process to the complete automation. Thank you very much.
So I'll start from the last point, that since 2010 we have been trying to give Pakistan an industrial policy. But we have been insisting on using the same old policy drivers which have brought us where we are today, as we are seeing for the last 2 days. There's nothing wrong with these policy drivers as such. They're still relevant, but should they be at the heart of our next policy package? That is something which we are going to let you know. Now, most of the participants were here yesterday also. We can share these, this presentation, all of it, with all the participants, but we know what is happening. What is happening in plastics and aluminium, the same is happening in detergents. Plastics we have already seen, kitchenware too. Vegetable oil, we know the problem that they use excessive amount of water, toxic fertilizers, fuel, environmental standards are not enforced, informal oil and ghee producers not registered and monitored, oil industry environment footprint information is not available on labels, and very weak vegetable oil testing facilities. Textile is well known. Abid produced a study on that in the first round, and then his study on dyeing and finishing has brought out the major problems in textiles. Agriculture, we have spoken indirectly today also when we talked about fertilizer, or yesterday we talked about wheat, the serious problems of inequities that we have, the kind of concentration of agricultural inputs, land inequality, insecure tenancy, poor agricultural extension, low productivity, but the most important point which is coming forward also, the example of wheat. Even if you green the wheat production in the country, if the wheat is used for profiteering and is not available to the consumer, and very little value is captured by the producer, then there is something seriously wrong with our policy. Transportation is a well-researched topic, and there I think a lot of work is happening. We produced a study, a colleague from RAMS was with us at that time, on decarbonization of transport, uh, we had a fair discussion on the intricacies of designing a better decarbonization policy for transport, keeping in mind the trade-offs. We wish EV policy a success, but if the fate of EV policy is not going to be different from CNG, then there is enough reason to pause and think again. Now, with this aspect, political economy is a problematic word, but in terms of wheat, yesterday we have to use this word, that the kind of relationships that we have established and allowed to grow and nurture in the country, they have led to the pursuit of productionist policy, where you produce for the profiteering and you don't bother about anything else. If you can make excessive profits. Now, wheat and grain markets is an excellent example. So what we are trying to do is that we bring in a new policy framework. The old policy framework is not working, and there the first one is that we reimagine environmental, social, and governance. The way currently ESG is thought about in terms of firm level compliances. ESG operates at the firm level, which we think it needs to be reimagined. This is still coming from the wheat. India, for example, has restrictions on the availability of wheat to the non-roti sector. Roti is the staple food. Biscuit, noodles, spaghettis is not the staple food. So why the finest quality atta goes to them, and with excessive advertisements, biscuits have become almost an essential commodity in your consumption. So this again, time and finishing. For me, this is a classical example that it is such a bad sector. It is primarily responsible for the total sectoral problems. Everybody knows about the problems. The use of dyes, finishing, but nothing is happening. So that is the growing irrelevance of our traditional policy drivers. Promote the investment promotion. We have been doing that in the country, and there is investment is promoted in all these sectors, but we know the results also. SME focus, promote and support R&D as a conduit of subsidies. We have been doing that also to help the industry. Giving other support also, strengthening modern tech institutes, use of TBTs for protection, support champion sectors, respect for. So this is coming from the draft Industrial Policy 2010. That's the last formal document available to us when government made a serious attempt, and this was done by LUMS. So this is what we are living with for the last 15 years. And the most interesting word for me here is the respect for standards. So we're very high on passing this message that we should respect the standard. We do. Practice is something different. Now, if we look at our climate policy, green industrialization requires a symbiosis between the climate policy and the industrial policy. So we have seen the problems with the industrial policy before. In the previous slides, we talked about the issues with the traditional industrial policies. But if you look at climate policies have been responding to the challenge, but the way for the last many years we have, these are the main goals. But if you look at, I'm sorry, perhaps it's not very visible, if you look at the menu that Ministry of Climate Change has adopted, on the top is incorporating economic incentives to promote emission reduction by upgrading industrial processes, preparing voluntary CSR. Now, since yesterday we are talking about this the relevance or usefulness or even rationale of continuing to insist with voluntary compliance. It's not working in Pakistan, period. Our commercial practice has made a joke out of this highly moral imperative that everybody should voluntarily. We viewed this morning that Punjab Environmental Protection Act wanted 26 years before to publish State of Environment report. It's been published now, that's good. But the same law asks for voluntarily reporting the emissions. Nobody does. And that is on the statute books for the last 20 years and all that. Now in the policy of 2021, these are the actions which have been given there. Aerosol emission impact assessment studies must be made, but have not been made. The policy says that these must be made. Ensure that technology transfer is accelerated. We would have a slide on that what has this nice suggestion happened. Control emissions without hampering the production processes. Now, either we think that controlling emission is going to hamper the production, so we don't do it. Practically, that's perhaps what is happening, that we have this vehem or this fear that if we green, then the production would be hampered. Explore and introduce incentives for industries to adapt low emission technologies, example dual functional materials for carbon capture, blah, blah, blah. Legislate opportunities for industry to facilitate transition to circular economy model. I think a draft policy is coming. Boost the market demand for recycled products. An excellent suggestion. I hope this could be put into practice. We had a detailed presentation yesterday that if the affordable housing people in Punjab were making 40,000 units, if they can create the demand pull also for this, that would be. Now, this is where we are in terms of SDG 9, which is the Sustainable Development Goals in terms of industrial development. So our manufacturing is decreasing and the manufacturing employment is also erratic. The value, my personal comment often is that when our GDP data is problematic, then every calculation based on that would also be problematic. Value of small scale industry, we don't even agree on the definition of what a small scale, in this room since yesterday we're talking about that. Now this is about research and development that we put in our documents again and again. This is an official source from the SDG board. It's only the broadband which is in positive and the higher education university ranking. Yesterday we had this nice presentation by Dr. Amjad on what is really happening in the engineering universities. So all of this brings us in this exercise of UNCTAD implemented by SPRC to identify the sticky points which have not moved despite all these policy drivers that we have. Industry is becoming green but slow and selectively. So now that is a major problem, that we are making progress, but would we make enough progress to save ourselves from CBAM hitting in very quickly? Policy response from economic ministries to the exigencies of green industrialization are fairly strong, but enforcement is weak. Better and more data, that's a major problem. We have with us the Chief Statistical Officer of the government. You see, when we don't know about the emissions, the baseline yesterday we had a discussion on that when the baseline is there, on what basis are we doing all these calculations? Green innovation is happening, but sporadically with green practices still expensive and not much more. The sequent problem, which hopefully with today's presentation we have a better understanding. Structural inequities in agricultural sector, preponderance of informal economy, mismatch with the regional realities. Now, what we propose as a green industrialization policy framework is that from past industrial development policies, usually when we say industrial policy, we're actually talking about the industrial development policy. We don't have an industrial policy as such of the federal government. They've been trying to have that. They're going to have one soon. Sajid is here from STPI. STPI is working on that. But our provinces have the industrial policies at this time. So what we suggest is that we learn from the past industrial development policies to design green industrial policy, providing a framework for future industrial development interventions. So we are not really asking to make a new industrial policy. Whatever we have, bring in the greening in a genuine way by a better conceptualization of what green actually means and identify the pillars which should guide the reorganized policy drivers strategic mix. So in this respect, we have identified only two policy principles which we are presenting to you. One is that modernization and greening of manufacturing activity needs to be taken as a single undertaking to produce optimum results. I hope out of all these discussions, now the message, at least for us, is loud and clear that you cannot or you should not separate these two processes. The modernization of production processes and greening naturally goes together. Why should we insist on seeing them separately? That's one principle. The second is that the government in particular needs to take greening as a growth trend. Private sector also, as well as, so if our goal is to expand manufacturing, the policy goals that we are recommending, that if our goal is to expand manufacturing and employment by a better control of variable pillars. Now the 5 pillars that we have been speaking about, they are given below, but the second policy goals is reduction of per unit price. That is the competitiveness of Pakistan's industry. So instead of having abstract, convoluted concepts, simple that what do we want? Expand manufacturing in Pakistan. If you ask for the detail, expand manufacturing for Pakistan for the latent or unmet local demand. That's what the goal should be, and becoming more competitive. And as we saw both in case of plastics and utensils, if we are successful in implementing these, let's say, 3-year plans, the per unit value would definitely go down, which would be good for our exports also, for the local market also. That goes without saying. Now, the 5 variables which we have been trying to bridge the policy goals with the sectoral integrated strategies. So if we can control these 5 variables positively, firmly, then we are there. So one is greenhouse gases status. Here I comment, which we have been conveying, is that in GHG we are talking a lot about energy, which is fine, but GHG is not only energy. The other sectors which are great emitters, we have seen that a small innocuous kind of appliance, that is stoves, what the stoves are doing in terms of greenhouse gases emissions. Then lean practice in academic circles, I'm hearing from Dr. Amjad for the last 3-4 years that I know him of the work on lean practices in UET, but otherwise it has not been taken as an article of faith by the industry. Now the standards compliance status, I'm happy that we had a more balanced view coming out of the discussions here, instead of attacking upfront on the compliance bodies or on the standard development bodies. This is a dialectic mechanism, and unfortunately the sectoral commercial practices are not very inspiring. We have good laws in the books, good regulations in the books, but somehow I would not say all, but a fair share of the private sector has found the ways around these compliances and standards which defines our commercial practice. And our key message to all of you is not to start with the theory of greening or theory of industrial policy. Start with Pakistan's commercial practice today. But that commercial practice has to be sectoral. There could be some national features of the commercial practice like distrust of the regulatory authorities, but that still is very general and is accusatory in nature. So we have to dig deeper in every sector to look at the nature of commercial practice, which may be different in each practice. In one sector, for example, I would not like to name here, the leaders of that sector, they have forbidden their members to say anything which goes the current interest of the industry. Simple. And they say that if somebody has to talk to us in the sector, talk to the leaders who usually are large producers and earning good profits, but they have a monopolistic control on that particular sector. So the smaller and medium-sized economic operator in that field is constrained to go with them and continue suffering from them also, because incidentally the leaders also control the availability of the raw materials to the small and medium-term processors. So every sector would have its own problems with the commercial practice. So once we have that, then we can go to the last pillar, that we have not realized in Pakistan the potential of competition policy, potential or relevance of competition policy to lead for us, that is the linkage, the mainstreaming you can say, or the inclusion of ecological justice, if that's not taken as a heavy word by some, making it a competition policy issue, because disregard to ecological justice gives unfair advantage to the people who do not follow that, do not invest on that, and that spoils the whole sector. So there, in that context, what we are suggesting is that we should have a revamped policy drivers mix, which is that green finance linked with green innovation. That linkage on paper is there, but we have seen today in the case studies that there are ways to directly link it with the process which is to be changed. Not in abstraction that green financing would go with the same is, I had the opportunity to comment on the green taxonomy which has been prepared by the State Bank of Pakistan. The main problem with it's a huge undertaking, it's wonderful that they've done that, but they have stopped short of identifying those production processes which need to be linked by that green innovation, which is to be financed or subsidized by the state or by the private sector. Reorganized standard, I'm sorry for the thing. We have talked about that. I think the standard agencies, particularly PCSIR and PSQCA, need to look at their standards, their compliance, and competition regime. Also, we do not, if you read the Competition Act of Pakistan, it talks about the well-known aspects of misleading advertisement or monopoly or collusion, such things, but they hardly ever go to the sectoral level and identify the competition, the violation of competition law and policy there. And then the reset of Ministry of Industries development policies. Ministry of Industries now has a lot of resources. People are asking them to revive, PIDC is there, but to make it very big, to convert Engineering Development Board into an Industrial Development Board. So they now have that space. The PM is very keen that Ministry of Industries should take lead in what they call reindustrialization of the country. So for that you need to have fit for purpose structures at Ministry of Industries. So that is also part of the policy mix that we are suggesting. So the discussion points, is the last slide also, that we would like to put in front of the August gathering, and many of them have actually already been commented upon and discussed, but we would still have 10-15 minutes to get your input on that, how do we end this uncomfortable relationship between green and traditional environmental pollution. So it appears that we are so keen on reducing our climate change impact, which is of course very important, that it appears that we are virtually abandoning the traditional environmental pollution control, which is such a big reality now that we have 42% more asthma in children due to pollution. So there, I think there needs to be a much better conceptualization and need to strengthen the nexus between voluntary standards and environmental compliances. I think we must go to the polluter pays principle, the voluntary approaches, when our commercial practice is not allowing the voluntary approaches to work. Better put them in the refrigerator, at least if you don't want to end voluntary approaches. Voluntary approaches have not worked with our private sector, period. And significance of mapping deficit maps of green, lean, standards and commercial practice, which we have done with the help of area experts in case of plastics and aluminium. The webs that they have shown that they have started with, and in both cases, unfortunately, the score out of 10 is less than 2, the deficit map. So we need such deficit maps with sufficient detail for each sector, so that then we can develop a new consensus to make green and lean into a judiciable matter of competition policy. That consensus now has to emerge, where we let the voluntary aspect go and bring the competition policy in. And last, what kind of steering mechanism should Ministry of Industries and Ministry of Climate Change have in developing this consensus, not only the ministry, but the academia, the industry, the private sector. So I stop here, and we have 10-15 minutes for your inputs. Thank you very much.